everyone. Ready for a deep dive into the male mind?
Always up for that.
Today, we're cracking open Steve Harvey's Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
It's basically a guide for women to better understand men in relationships.
Interesting.
Sort of like a cheat sheet for navigating the dating world.
You know what, though? Even though it's aimed at women, I think anyone could benefit from understanding how men think.
Right. It could help anyone improve their relationships, no matter their gender.
Absolutely. Harvey has some pretty strong opinions about male psychology.
And how those thoughts play out in relationships.
Yeah, some might even say his ideas are controversial, but that's what makes it so interesting.
Okay, so let's dive into this male playbook then.
Let's do it.
One of the big things Harvey talks about is what he calls the 3 Ps.
The 3 Ps.
Yeah, he says that men are basically driven by 3 core needs: to profess, provide, and protect.
It's almost like it's hardwired into them.
Exactly, like it's their operating system.
Interesting. So how does that play out in real life?
Well, he gives this example of a man buying his kid the newest sneakers.
Okay.
He says it's not just about the shoes themselves.
It's about something deeper.
Yeah, it's about that need to protect his child by giving them the best he can provide.
I see.
Or think about how important it is for a man to publicly announce his commitment to a woman.
Like a big proposal or something.
Exactly. That's all tied to the need to profess.
So all these grand gestures and actions are really just expressions of these fundamental needs.
That's what Harvey's saying.
Fascinating.
So if we can understand these 3 Ps, it can help us make sense of male behavior that might otherwise be confusing.
Oh, I can see that.
Like that quiet guy who doesn't give a lot of compliments might actually be showing his love by working hard to provide.
Yeah. Or maybe he's not the best at expressing his feelings verbally, but he shows it through actions like protecting and providing.
It's all about recognizing the different ways that men express themselves.
I'm with you there, but doesn't this whole 3 Ps idea feel a little outdated?
Like stuck in traditional gender roles?
Yeah. What about modern relationships where those roles are changing?
That's a good question.
Like, how do these drives adapt to those evolving roles?
Something to think about for sure.
Definitely. Especially as we keep exploring Harvey's ideas.
Now, one of Harvey's most controversial pieces of advice is the 90-day rule.
90-day rule? What's that?
He basically advises women to hold back on sex and emotional investment for the first 3 months of dating.
Whoa, 3 months. That's a long time.
I know, it's a bold strategy.
Like, what's the reasoning behind that?
He compares it to, like, a company's probation period.
Okay.
Like, you have to prove yourself before you get the full benefits.
Interesting analogy.
The idea is that it gives women time to evaluate a man's character before getting too emotionally attached.
So you're not blinded by those initial feelings of infatuation.
Exactly. But honestly, part of me thinks it's a little outdated.
Yeah, like playing games instead of being honest about what you want.
Right. And I could definitely see that backfire.
I would definitely miss communication waiting to happen.
But then again, I can also see the value in taking things slow and really observing someone's behavior.
Yeah, observing their actions rather than just listening to their words.
I guess it's all about finding that balance between taking your time and not coming across as manipulative.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And communication is key, as always.
Clear communication about intentions and expectations can go a long way.
Couldn't agree more.
Harvey also categorizes men into 2 types: sports fish and keepers.
Sports fish?
Yeah.
Like the ones you catch and release?
Exactly. Those are the guys who are just looking for a fling.
Oh, yeah.
And keepers are the ones who are relationship material.
Got it. So how do you tell the difference?
Well, he gives some pretty entertaining examples in the book.
Like what?
I don't want to spoil all the fun, but he says it's about looking for subtle signs and behaviors rather than just taking their word for it.
I like that.
Actions speak louder than words, right?
Absolutely. But people are complicated.
What do you mean?
Well, these categories can be helpful, but can't a sports fish ever become a keeper?
Oh, yeah, for sure. People change and evolve.
Exactly. And someone who seems like they're just looking for fun might actually be craving a deeper connection, but haven't found the right person yet.
And on the flip side, someone who seems like perfect keeper material might have ulterior motives.
Oh, so true. So much for neat little boxes then.
Right. It's more about paying attention to consistent actions and patterns of behavior.
Makes sense.
Okay, now one thing that I know a lot of women struggle with is the mama's boy dilemma.
Oh boy. Yeah, that could be tough.
Harvey actually shares a strawberry letter in his book.
One of those letters from a reader.
Yeah, and this one's from a woman who feels like she's constantly competing with her partner's mom for his attention.
Oh, I can see how that would be frustrating.
So how does Harvey suggest navigating this?
Well, he says that men are conditioned to meet the standards set by their mothers.
Oh, that makes sense.
And if a woman hasn't established her own clear expectations and boundaries, the mother's influence tends to win out.
So it's not about fighting with the mother-in-law.
No, it's about communicating your needs directly to your partner.
And making sure he understands what you expect from the relationship.
Exactly. It's about finding a healthy balance where you respect his relationship with his mom, but also ensure your needs are met.
And that your voice is heard.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've talked about the 3 Ps and the 90-day rule.
Right. Pretty big ideas.
But one thing that comes up a lot in relationships, and something that Steve Harvey spends a lot of time on, is the issue of infidelity.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
It's something that a lot of couples struggle with.
And it can be really hard to understand.
For sure, but it's a topic that we can't really ignore.
Definitely, it's a reality for many people.
So how does Harvey approach this? Does he have like a secret formula for predicting who's going to cheat?
Oh, if only it were that easy. There's no crystal ball, unfortunately.
So what does he say?
Well, he does identify some common factors that might make someone more likely to be unfaithful.
Okay, I'm listening.
One thing he talks about is what he calls the cookie jar syndrome.
Cookie jar syndrome. What's that?
He basically says that men have a strong biological drive for sex.
Okay.
And if that need isn't being met in their primary relationship, they might be more tempted to look elsewhere.
So it's kind of like a supply and demand thing.
Yeah, something like that.
Interesting.
I mean, it's important to acknowledge that biological reality.
Right.
But of course, that doesn't excuse cheating in any way.
Of course not. But I guess understanding those underlying drives can help us see things from a different perspective.
Definitely. It's not about condoning the behavior.
Right. It's about gaining a deeper understanding.
Exactly.
And this actually ties back to the 3 Ps that we discussed earlier.
Oh, how so?
Well, Harvey suggests that if a man isn't feeling fulfilled in those areas, to profess, provide, and protect, it can create vulnerability.
Vulnerability to what?
To temptation, to straying from the relationship.
Like a crack in the foundation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also worth noting that cheating isn't always about finding someone better.
What else could it be about then?
Well, sometimes it's about seeking validation.
Or attention.
Yeah, or even just a temporary escape from stress.
So many different reasons.
And Harvey also points out that men are more likely to cheat when they feel like their personal goals aren't aligned with their partners.
Like they're on different paths.
Yeah, like if one person is super career-driven and the other is more focused on family.
That could definitely cause tension.
And potentially lead to trouble.
So it goes back to that sense of balance we were talking about.
Absolutely. And making sure that both partners feel fulfilled and appreciated in the relationship.
Right, because if those needs aren't being met, it can increase the risk of infidelity.
Now let's talk about the getting caught factor. Do men really think they can get away with it?
Well, according to Harvey, most men actually don't expect to get caught.
Really?
He says they often rationalize their behavior.
Like telling themselves it won't hurt anyone.
Yeah. Or convincing themselves that it will remain a secret.
Which, of course, is rarely how it works out in reality.
Definitely. Infidelity always has consequences, whether it's discovered or not.
Absolutely. It can erode trust and have a devastating impact on a relationship.
So, what can someone do to prevent infidelity from happening in the first place?
Well, unfortunately, there's no foolproof method.
Right.
But Harvey stresses the importance of setting clear expectations from the very beginning of a relationship.
Like having that upfront conversation about boundaries.
Yeah, and about what each person expects from the relationship.
So it's about building that strong foundation of open and honest communication.
And making sure that both partners feel valued and respected.
Absolutely. And that their needs are being acknowledged and addressed.
But even with the best of intentions, sometimes relationships just don't work out.
That's true.
And for a lot of people, infidelity is a deal breaker.
Understandably so.
But what if someone genuinely wants to change? Like they messed up, but they're truly remorseful and want to fix things?
Is that even possible?
Well, that's a really interesting question.
And what does Harvey say?
He actually believes that real change is possible.
Even after infidelity.
But he emphasizes that it requires a willingness to face the consequences, take responsibility, and put in the work to rebuild trust.
That's a lot.
It is. It's not just about saying sorry.
It's about showing it through actions.
Right. It's about making a real commitment to to doing things differently moving forward.
Like a complete shift in priorities.
Exactly. And that often involves making the relationship the top priority.
And consistently demonstrating that commitment through actions.
So it sounds like a lot of work from both sides.
It definitely is. But if both partners are truly invested in the relationship and willing to put in the effort,
it can lead to an even stronger and more fulfilling partnership in the long run.
like a second chance.
Yeah, a fresh start built on honesty and accountability.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something a little more hopeful.
Okay, I'm ready for some positivity.
I know a lot of people are curious about Harvey's advice on getting that ring.
The age-old quest for commitment.
So what's his secret?
Well, Harvey's a big believer in being upfront about what you want.
Okay.
He says that women shouldn't be afraid to express their desire for marriage.
And to actually say that they want to get married.
Yeah, and even to set a timeline for getting engaged.
Whoa, really? That's pretty bold.
Right, kind of goes against that whole idea of playing it cool and letting the man lead.
But Harvey's point is that women have more options these days.
So they shouldn't waste time on a relationship that's not going where they want it to go.
It's about taking control of your own happiness and being clear about your goals.
Exactly. And Harvey believes that men actually respect women who know what they want and aren't afraid to ask for it.
It shows confidence and self-worth.
Absolutely. But how do you have that conversation without sounding like you're giving an ultimatum?
That's a good question.
It's all about the approach.
So how do you do it?
You have to frame it in a positive and empowering way. Instead of saying, marry me or else, you express your love and desire for a future together.
So you're setting a deadline, but with grace and confidence.
Exactly. And Harvey says that if a man is truly in love and sees a future with you,
you'll step up.
right. But if he doesn't,
That might be a sign that he's not the right one for you.
and as Harvey says, better to know sooner rather than later.
So it's about knowing your worth and not settling for anything less than what you deserve.
That's a powerful message.
Now, Harvey also talks about something he calls strong, independent, and lonely women.
That's an interesting concept.
He acknowledges the success and power of modern women,
Right.
but he suggests that sometimes their independence can actually become a barrier to finding lasting love.
So he's saying that strong women intimidate men.
Well, not exactly.
That's a pretty outdated stereotype.
Yeah, Harvey actually challenges that stereotype directly.
Oh, really?
He says that real men aren't threatened by a woman's success.
They're attracted to it.
Exactly.
But what is he getting at then?
Well, he says that sometimes independent women might unintentionally send signals that push men away.
Like what kind of signals?
It's not about dimming your shine or pretending to be someone you're not,
Okay.
but it's about finding a balance between independence and allowing a man to feel needed and appreciated.
That's an interesting point.
He actually tells this really great anecdote to illustrate his point.
Oh, tell me about it.
So he had this friend who was dating a woman who made more money than him.
Okay.
And one day they were at the grocery store and he wanted to buy a bottle of pineapple juice.
Pineapple juice?
Yeah, I know, it's random.
What happened?
Well, she told him they couldn't afford it.
Oh, wow.
And it really hurt his pride.
I can imagine.
And eventually it led to the downfall of their relationship.
So the takeaway is that even if you're a successful independent woman, it's okay to let your man take care of you sometimes.
Yeah, it's not about being helpless.
It's about expressing appreciation for his efforts
And allowing him to contribute to the relationship.
in a way that makes it feel valued.
Exactly, like maybe letting him open doors for you, or pay for dates, or handle those fix-it tasks around the house.
Even if you could totally do it yourself.
It's a nice reminder that even the most independent woman can benefit from a little bit of old-fashioned chivalry.
For sure. Okay, now let's wrap things up with some rapid-fire answers to some common questions that women have about men.
Oh, I like this part.
Harvey has a whole section in his book dedicated to this.
Like a quick relationship advice round?
Yeah, basically.
Hit me with it.
Okay, so one question is, do men actually notice when a woman gains a few pounds?
I think we all want to know the answer to that
And
one.
Harvey says, drum roll please, yes.
So they do notice.
He says men are very visual creatures, and they pick up on those changes.
But is it a deal breaker?
He says not necessarily,
Oh, that's good to know.
as long as a woman is taking care of herself and making an effort.
A few extra pounds here and there aren't going to make or break the relationship.
It's about the whole package.
Okay, what else?
Another question is, do men actually enjoy shopping?
I think I know the answer to that one.
And you're probably right.
They don't.
Nope. Harvey says that most men find shopping to be a chore,
Not a pleasure.
unless it's for gadgets or power tools.
Of course.
Okay, here's a more serious one. What do men think about prenups?
Oh, that's a big one.
Harvey gets real about this.
What does he say?
He says that men often see prenups as a way to protect their assets.
Especially if they've worked hard to build a successful career or business.
Yeah. And he says that if a woman truly loves and trusts her partner,
She shouldn't be offended by a prenup?
it's about having an open and honest conversation about finances.
And understanding where he's coming from.
Exactly.
Okay, last question. What do men really think about those deep relationship talks that women love so much?
Oh, you already know the answer to this one.
They don't like them.
Harvey says that most men dread those kinds of conversations.
Like they feel put on the spot.
Yeah, like they're being interrogated.
But he also acknowledges that they're sometimes necessary.
He encourages men to participate with an open mind,
It's about understanding that men and women often communicate differently.
and that those conversations can be really important for building intimacy and connection.
Even if they're not always the most comfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They can lead to a deeper understanding and a stronger bond.
Which is what we all want, ultimately.
That's a great point. And it brings us to the final part of our deep dive into Steve Harvey's Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man.
Well, we've really gone deep into Steve Harvey's world with act like a lady, think like a man.
Yeah, from those 3 Ps to navigating infidelity and even how to get the ring, it's been quite a journey.
We covered a lot.
You know what strikes me, though? Even though some of his advice is controversial,
Yeah.
there's a real emphasis on empowerment.
How so?
He really encourages women to know their worth.
And not be afraid to ask for what they want.
Exactly. It's not about playing games. It's about clear communication and being an equal partner.
Right.
And honestly, I think a lot of what he says can apply to any relationship.
Not just for women.
Yeah, understanding those differences and how men and women approach relationships, that's valuable for everyone.
So for our listeners out there, how can they actually use these insights?
Well, that's the real challenge, right?
Taking the theory and applying it to real life.
Harvey's book gives us a good framework.
Like a starting point.
Exactly. But everyone's situation is unique.
So you have to figure out how it all fits into your own relationship.
It's about being self-aware
Knowing what you want.
and having the confidence to communicate that.
And remember, every relationship is different,
It's a journey.
with lots of twists and turns.
There's no magic formula.
But open communication can make a huge difference.
And create a truly fulfilling partnership.
Now, it's important to remember that Steve Harvey's book is just one perspective.
One viewpoint among many.
In this deep dive, we've explored his ideas and hopefully sparked some interesting thoughts for you.
Maybe you agree with everything he says. Maybe you don't.
But the goal is to get you thinking critically about relationships.
And to have those important conversations.
So as you continue your own deep dive into relationships, remember,
Yeah.
the most important relationship you have is the one with yourself.
Oh, that's so true.
Know your worth, be confident, and never settle for less than you deserve.
Great advice.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been fun.
Until next time, keep those conversations flowing.
And keep diving deep.